The last time the unemployment rate was at these levels, I was in preschool. Compare that with the 1980s and 1990s, when unemployment rates above 8% were seen quite frequently, and 6% was as much as we thought we could hope for. It's a remarkable achievement. And so as policymakers are trying to get inflation down, the question we need to ask ourselves is, can they do that while still holding on to the gains of getting unemployment as low as we have? The government has set out a definition of full employment, and they're proposing to clarify the full employment goal in the Reserve Bank's mandate. What they shouldn't do, in my view, is impose a numerical target for either their own or the Reserve Bank's objectives. For a start, the definition in the white paper goes beyond just unemployment. It's defined there as the state of the world where anyone who wants a job can find one without having to wait for too long and look for too long. That job should also be secure and decently paid. Now, there's a lot to unpack in that definition. It captures the quality of the employment experience as well as the hours of work that people want. Another reason why it's not a good idea to fix a numerical target is that what's feasible isn't fixed. Economists like to think of a rate of unemployment below which inflation starts to pick up, or better still, wages growth starts to pick up. It's better to think of this in terms of wages growth because then you can look through things like oil price shocks. They call this rate of unemployment the NAIRU, or the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment. But think of it as the feasible rate of unemployment. But this feasible rate of unemployment isn't handed down from the heavens or set in stone. It can change, and it absolutely has changed in the past. A lot of countries, including Australia, found that in the years leading up to the pandemic, they were able to get unemployment down to multi-decade lows without inflation taking off. So if you were to impose a numerical target for unemployment in your definition for full employment, you would be closing off the possibility that you could get unemployment even lower. So another way to frame the aspiration to full employment is to ask if we can get the feasible rate of unemployment down towards the rate of unemployment that's consistent with our aspirations for full employment. Part of doing that will boil down to all the usual worker-centric policies of worker training, skills, and so on. It also means that employers need to broaden their horizons and consider candidates who perhaps don't have as much experience or have non-standard experience, rather than expecting that they can always hire somebody who's done the same job somewhere else. That will happen more and more as the labour market tightens up. But firms need time to adapt to the situation. And that probably means that policymakers need to approach where they think that feasible rate of unemployment is at a moderate pace, rather than rushing to the lowest possible level immediately. That actually gives you the long-term gain of potentially getting the feasible rate of unemployment down. So for all those reasons, I think it's important not to solidify our expectations and our aspirations for full employment at a particular number, and instead we should create the conditions for a reduction in the feasible rate of unemployment. That doesn't mean making a trade-off between high inflation and lower unemployment. That experiment was tried in the 1970s and it failed. But it does mean being open to the idea that we can get the feasible rate of unemployment even lower than it is today.